like to introduce our first presenter for today, Mihkel Sooba. So please help me welcome him on stage with a big round of applause. Mihkel, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So, hi. My name is Mihkel Sooba. I'm a data engineer here at Pipedrive, obviously, the shirt. And today I'm going to talk about how we prevent data islands here at Pipedrive and how we enable different integrations to make the data flows more simple. So to start with, there's actually a joke, like many jokes about, like, let's say, software engineers. How many software engineers does it take to change a light bulb? None, because it's a hardware issue. And me, myself, I've been, for quite a long time, marketing analyst or involved with marketing. And so I tend to make jokes about marketers. And the question is, how many marketers does it take to create tens of large data islands? And the answer is just one, because you can place a lot of pixels on the site. And when I started thinking about data islands, kind of like this scenery or this imagery came to my mind, where you have one large island and a bunch of different smaller islands. And I kind of decided that, okay, I'm going to change the image a bit. To give you like a bit more perspective how I feel as a data engineer, but I used to feel as an analyst. So the case is that the lower bottom, you have like a large island there where all the analysts, the data scientists are present. They are pulling out the information from data warehouse. And close to them are PMs, marketers, executives, salespeople, you name it. And on the upper left corner, you have data engineers. You have guys who kind of trying to explore the areas, trying to understand where the data is, if it's not in the main data warehouse. So yes. The one good example is, for example, Facebook. When you Google how my Facebook campaign is performing, then you get more than 7.5 billion search results, not searches. And how Facebook actually, or like what's Facebook's solution is that you place a pixel on your site. And it tracks down all the events, all the meaningful events that you actually want to add there. You can track down conversions. And in that case, you would see the results in real time, which is all nice. But the main question is, where is my data? Like, I'm sending the information into Facebook. I want to know what these people are actually doing afterwards when they convert, how I can tie that information they have in our data warehouse. How much money they're spending, how well they're integrating with different features and so on. If I would like to track that down in Facebook, I don't really think so. Second case is mobile. Tracking with mobile is quite easy. Works with SDKs. There's no problem. But generally, when you start thinking about the specific contexts, if it's mobile campaign attribution, when you do like mobile campaigns in Google, for example, it's a pain in the ass. Unless you use like some sort of like expensive cross-platform tool set. And yeah, in our case, we use a tool named Segment. It has the SDK available. It also gives you the mobile attribution data, but unfortunately, it's not working at the moment. Reason unknown. They said they're looking into it, but I don't know. Then there's also a possibility to use Google Analytics, but you get the attribution data, but you still don't have the user IDs or like raw payloads, what you want to get to tie that with your data warehouse information. You could export that to BigQuery, and from BigQuery to Google Cloud or whatever infrastructure you have set up, but it's sort of expensive, not really worth it. So what we found is Firebase Analytics, which is also quite good. In the UI itself, you will see the events, you see the conversions, but there's no direct relation. So you just see the quick insights. But one good thing about Firebase is that you can integrate that with BigQuery, and it doesn't really cost a lot compared to if you would send all the information from Google Analytics into BigQuery. And from BigQuery, you can send it to Data Warehouse. So in that case, we're preventing the data island that happens with mobile attribution data, and our marketers are happy. So for us, it's a simple rule. Whenever we implement like third-party solution, let it be Facebook, let it be Firebase, let it be Google Ads, for example, we always want to know how we can get the data back, how we can tie that with the information that we have about our customers in our data warehouse. It's the question you should ask all the time, where's my data? Second thing that I want to talk about today is how we enable effortless integrations. It's sort of simple. Was already mentioned, Segment. It's a great tool. On the website, they state that we make customer data simple. Don't really agree that they make the customer data simple, but they make the data flowing simple. So you track down the events, and then you send the events into various integrations, various locations. And you can get the data back from there, which is really nice. But let's start with like historical timeline. I've been with Pipedrive for the last almost 4 years. And I joined pretty much at the same time when we started introducing Segment. In the early stages, nobody was really eager to implement it. Nobody was really into it. Nobody really understood what it means. But at least some people felt that, okay, it's useful. We can kind of integrate all the marketing tool set that we would like to test out. And it was crazy cheap at that point. And after like 3-4 months, going through the internal processes and implementations, we got the MVP running. All the front-end events and back-end events were being tracked. They were feeding the marketing tool sets, and we also sent a lot of information into Amplitude, Mixergy, Kiss Metrics. We tried out Google Analytics as well. Yes. Eventually, we went with Amplitude, but that's then. After like less than a year, we decided that, okay, we need like a safety net. We call it Shasheda, which is our own internally built tool, mostly or primarily to save the money, because at some point when there's a lot of data, it starts to cost a lot, and with Segment, it costs even more. But the only thing that we figured out is that, okay, it's good for data collection, it's good for data storing, but if you want to integrate that with third-party platforms, it's a pain. So it's not really easy to do that. And so we kept it still. It's still working. It's a really nice thing. It has its own advantages. For example, if we track down events with segments, it may be influenced with ad blockers. But Shasheda, it's our own internal tool. We're sending that to our own database, so it's like pipedrive.com connection. It's not affected with ad blockers. And then like for the next 2 years, it was quite good. Nobody really complained. But as the company grew from sort of like 100 people when I joined to 500 people, you start to notice the difference. You start understanding that all the project managers, all the executives, they want to see the results right now, like right now. And we started thinking, okay, what's the solution? And we found Amplitude once again. At first, we kind of ditched it. It wasn't really working for us. We were using that for website tracking. Yes. It took more than like half a year to understand that we're still not fully utilizing Segment, but our website was sort of like messy. It had like 14 or 16 different pixels on the site. Nobody really knew how they're implemented, what needs to be there, when it needs to be there, what are the dependencies, and so on. So we decided that we're gonna make the same as the Segment as the main tracking tool, and with Google Tag Manager. So it makes our life a lot easier because most of the events are already tracked in Segment, and we can tie that information with Google Tag Manager. But still, the case is that over the time, the price has grown. But if we compare 2015 versus today, good thing is that there's like 93% less hard-coded tracking pixels on the site, which means that there are probably at least like 200 plus happy developers in this house, or happier at least, because they don't need to understand how this tracking works for Facebook. They don't need to understand how LinkedIn tracking works for Facebook, or LinkedIn tracking works on our site, and when something needs to be triggered, because this is all managed from the Segment side or Google Tag Manager side. And what it also gives us is faster tool adoption, or if we want to POC something, and don't really want to take the credit for faster page speed, because it's influenced by a lot of things that we've done with the page. But when I checked it, and we have like reduced the amount of pixels that are actually on our site, then it's twice as fast compared to 2015. So what happened is that there's basically like a new era of tracking in Pipedrive, and it consists of Segment and Google Tag Manager. So whatever we're tracking down with Segment goes into Google Tag Manager. Whatever we cannot track with Segment, we track it with Tag Manager, but it goes back to Segment. So whatever we wish to track, we can send it back to the integrations that are available in Segment, and what is not is done via Google Tag Manager. And same, for example, if it's like Google Analytics or it's Amplitude, or you want to send it to your emailing tools, or just your data storage systems like Redshift, S3, and so on. So yeah, where we've reached to is that if there's an integration available, just use it. It saves you a lot of time, money, and energy. In our case, I think that there has been quite many cases where people are like, okay, we need to get this pixel live on our site right now. Shall I create the task? I'm like, nah, don't really do that, because it takes me like 2 seconds. And the third part is POCing third-party tools, which is sort of connected with the previous topic. But first, if we start about like POCing, or talk about POCing, it consists of like 5 different stages. First, you define the problem, you define the timeline, you define the stakeholders, and after that, you develop the use case, you make it more concrete. Then you engineer it, you develop your idea, you put it into code, and well, somebody needs to put it live as well. And the most crucial stage is that you actually need to evaluate it. You need to see the results, and it may even create a loop. So you evaluate it, you see that you need to make something better, and you go back to stage 1. But with segment, the case is that we have like kind of eliminated the stage 3 and stage 4 in most of the cases, because if the event is already tracked and we want to send something to some weird startup tool that everybody is super hyped about, then it might be possible. And you would cut at least like 50% of the time from these stages, yeah. But what does it really give us? So, the clicker doesn't really work. Okay. It gives us the option to use 50 plus different analytics tools. Amplitude, Metrics, Mixergy, that's just one piece of it. It actually has 200 plus integrations. It has 40 plus different data sources, which means that you can pull the information from, let's say it's MailChimp, you can pull the information from MailChimp into Segment, and then direct this information into various tools via the integrations or into a data warehouse. It has a real-time debugger, which means that you can see your raw payloads all the time. If you're unsure if this event consists of these event properties, you can check it, you can track it down, send it to your developer, hey, this is not working. It also has a tracking plan, which means that you track down the events, you set up the conditions. If it's not true, it kind of creates like a violation. And again, you can beat your developer what they have done wrong. It also has event filtering, so you can select what do you want to send, and destination filtering as where do you want to send it. And the most important thing is that you're getting your data back. And sometimes it may be enriched. So what is the difference back in 2015 again, and what is the difference now? Back then it took at least like 2 or 3 or even sometimes like 4 weeks from an idea to implementation. And you had to involve quite many developers, at least 3. And you had to play with dummy data sets, or you had to test in live, and nobody really wants to do that. But now it takes maybe a few days to implement, or sometimes even a few minutes. Depends on the use case. You don't really need to involve developers unless it's like a new thing to track down. And you can try out different tools in live or test environment, which is already set up. And this results in our project managers being really, really happy. They're quite hyped about this. And as Kevin says here, it happened all so fast, really fast. So what it means is that using Segment, it's really easy for us to POC a tool. And in our case, it's minimum effort and maximum results. And to quickly recap, data islands, try to get your data back as much as possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but at least try your best. POCing, minimum effort, maximum result. Effortless integrations, use it because it saves you time and money. And one good pro tip, which I didn't really mention, but still, having a tracking plan. No matter how big or small you are, it always gets messy. You may find yourself in a situation where you have 1,000 events and you don't really find use for it. You don't know what's happening. And you should always end with a cat gif. I find it really funny. So, thank you. If you have any questions, then now is the time. Oh, there's a catch box somewhere, like a green thingy. Oh, yeah. Grete? Vaata ülesse. Reedi juurde, yeah. Anyone? They're all speechless, yeah. Don't be afraid. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mihkel.